This video walks through how to download and install Anaconda, the 2024-06 release. That is the June 2024 release. So we go to anaconda.com/download, click skip registration so that you don't get annoying email, and click the download button. And I'm using Chrome, and we see that Anaconda 2024.06 is downloading for me. And now it's done. So I will pull up my file manager in my download directory. Here we go, and here is the installation program that I've just downloaded, Anaconda3 2024.06. I'll double click that, and there's a certain amount of waiting involved as you're doing this installation. I'll clip out some of the waiting time. Here we go. So, welcome to Anaconda3 2024.06 setup. Mostly we're going to choose defaults here, so I'm going to click Next. End user license agreement, I'm going to click I agree. Installation type, I'm going to install it for just me, which is, I'm the only user of my machine anyway. So I'll take the default and click Next. To install in a different folder, click Browse. I'm perfectly satisfied with the default, which in my case is Users, J. Ostland, Anaconda 3. So I'll take the default and click Next. Create Start Menu Shortcuts. I do want that to be checked. Add Anaconda 3 to my path. It says this is not recommended. I'm going to leave it unchecked in case I have other versions of Python available on my system that I already use. Register Anaconda 3 as my default Python version 3.11. I will go ahead and leave that checked. Clear the package cache upon completion. Recommended, recovers some disk space. You can go ahead and check that. I guess I will check that myself. And now we click Install, and now we have a lot of waiting to do. So I'm going to clip out a bunch of time here until the installation is completed. All right, finally we got to installation complete. For me, that took about 9 minutes. May take more time or less time for you on your machine. I'll click Next again. Everything you love, blah, 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 Jupyter Notebook. I don't want to code in the cloud. I want everything to be on my own machine, so I'm going to just click Next. Here are some useful resources to get you started. Launch Anaconda Navigator, getting started with Anaconda distribution. I'm going to uncheck these. You can leave them checked and read through that stuff if you are interested, but I'm just going to go ahead and click Finish. Okay, and so I have now successfully installed Anaconda on my machine. All right, well, next we're going to take a look at how to gain access to some of the integrated development environments and shells and so forth that we get as part of the Anaconda installation. And I should have mentioned earlier that I am working on a Windows 10 machine. You will have to follow a somewhat different process if you're on a Mac, possibly a little bit different if you're on a Windows 11 machine. But basically, in anaconda.com/download. Click the download button. The system will be able to identify what kind of machine you have, and then follow through as appropriate to install Anaconda. Now, once you have Anaconda installed on a Windows machine, there are certain applications installed as part of Anaconda that you're going to want to have convenient access to. So I'm going to click my Start button, and here I see my Anaconda3 folder containing the top-level applications. And under here I have Anaconda Navigator, Anaconda PowerShell prompt, Anaconda prompt, which is just using the old-fashioned command prompt, Jupyter Notebook, and Spider. Reset Spider settings is just a way of getting Spider back to its original settings. Okay, the first thing I want to do is to make use of the Anaconda prompt. This will give me an ordinary command prompt window that is aware of the path or location for all of my Anaconda-related software. I don't want to have to fuss around with this Start menu, so I'm going to right-click on Anaconda prompt. I'm going to go down to where it says More, and then over to Pin to Taskbar. And here we see, in my taskbar now, is an icon for the Anaconda prompt. I'm going to do the same thing for the Spider integrated development environment. So let me right-click on Spider, and under More, I will say Pin to Taskbar. And also I want to do this for the Anaconda Navigator. Now on Windows, I won't probably use the Navigator much, but on a Mac, this will be a very convenient tool for you to use to access the other applications. So I right-clicked on Anaconda Navigator, down to More, and I'm going to Pin to Taskbar there as well. All right, so now I have in my taskbar the Anaconda prompt icon, the Spider icon, and the Anaconda Navigator icon. There are many, many different integrated development environments that you can use to do Python programming. The very simplest one, which I actually don't recommend that you use for your own work, but I do like to use it for my lectures exactly because it is extremely simple. So I'm going to launch the Anaconda prompt window. Here we go. And you can see it looks like an ordinary command prompt window for Windows. It just has this notation over here, base, to remind me that this thing is aware of my Anaconda development environment. Now in here, I can run the very simplest integrated development environment available for Python, which is idle, I-D-L-E. And I'll press enter, and up comes, this is my idle shell. You may or may not be able to read that in the upper left corner. The titles here says idle shell 3.12.4. So this is using not the most recent, but a fairly recent version of the Python shell. And I didn't say so, but what I've done here is I've clicked the maximize button, the big square over here in the upper right corner, so that this window entirely fills my screen. In here, I can type and execute Python code. The 3 greater than symbols over here in the left margin are the prompt indicating where I should type my code. And as an absolutely trivial example, let me create a variable called little a. And to that variable a, I'm going to, or from that variable a, I'm going to refer to the integer value 123. Or the way I would pronounce this is a gets 123. Okay, so I like to pronounce the single equal sign as gets for reasons that I'll talk about later. All right, so when I say a gets 123 and hit the enter key, I did not get any angry error message, so that must have worked. Now in a Python shell, such as the idle shell that I'm seeing here, if you type the name of a variable and that variable exists, the shell will show you the value that that variable currently refers to. So if I type A, I get told, that refers to the value 123. If I say B, on the other hand, there is no variable called B currently, and so I get this red error message telling me that the name B is not defined. All right, and we will be able to do a lot more sophisticated stuff beyond just creating a simple variable in Python. Now, to get out of Python, what you do is type, or what you can do is type quit. You may be able to tell that quit here is in a purple colored font. That is an indication in idle that quit is the name of a function. Now, when I just hit the enter key here, I get told, well, no, you made a mistake. Because quit is a function, you have to type quit with an open parenthesis and a close parenthesis to call the function. You can't just type plain old quit to quit from the shell. So so this is bizarre and aggravating. Clearly the shell knows what I'm trying to do. It knows that I'm trying to quit, but it's telling me, no, you typed the wrong syntax, so you have to type QUIT, open and close parentheses, in order to be able to quit. All right, so I have followed instructions now. I'll hit the enter key. And idle here is asking for confirmation. It tells me your program, that is your shell, is still running. Do you want to kill it? If I click OK, that will get me back to my, that will close this idle shell, and it will get me back to my idle prompt. So let me click OK. And there we are. All right. So that is an example of idle, the very simplest tool. Let me also show how we can create and execute a program file as opposed to just an interactive shell. I'll run idle again. I'm going to maximize idle to fill the whole screen. And this time I'm going to say File. Notice there's some menus along the upper part of the shell window here. I'm going to say File, New File. And that launches an editor. I'm also going to maximize this editor. And you may or may not be able to see that in the upper left corner here it says this file is untitled. So let me say File, Save As. And I'm going to put this into my Downloads directory. And let me just call it myprog. Oh, I guess I already have a myprog1. So let me just call it prog1 .py. All right, so I'm calling this file prog1.py, Actually, it's okay for you to leave off the .py extension, .py for Python code, and the editor will automatically assume that you meant to give that .py extension anyway. So I'm going to save this now. All right, so save. And now you can see in the upper left corner, perhaps, you can see that it says this file is prog1.py. Let me do as I did in the interactive shell. I'm going to say create a variable a referring to 123. Now, in a program file, it's insufficient to just type a variable name to see the value of that variable. That will work in the interactive shell, but I am not in the interactive shell here. I'm actually editing a code file, and what I've typed in the file so far is I just typed a blank line, and then I said A gets 123. Now, that has not been executed yet. I'm just creating this in a file. And then I've got this line here that just says A. To run this code, I will have to first save this file to the disk. So File, Save. And now I can say Run Module. And the interactive shell is responsible for actually executing the code. What the editor does is to hand a copy of the file that you're editing to the shell. And what you see here is I got no output. I didn't get 123 on my screen. The shell was restarted, and then the code was executed, but nothing came out. A does exist, and if I now type A at my interactive prompt, I will see that the variable A exists and refers to the value 123. But I didn't see any output from the program itself. The reason is that in order to see things from the program, I have to use a function called print, which displays values to the user screen. So here I'm going to say print A. You may or may not be able to see that there's a little asterisk next to the file name in the upper left corner here. That asterisk indicates that I have not saved the file. I can, as I did before, I can say File, Save, or notice that there's a shortcut key for saving the file. I can instead just press Control S. So let me do that instead. Let me press Control S. Control S. There. And when I hit Control S, the asterisk went away. And now I can run the module. And actually, this also has a shortcut key. I can just press the function key, F5. Let me do that. So I'll press F5. And this time, when the file gets handed off to a restarted shell, because I said print A, I did get 123 on my screen. Okay, so that is an extraordinarily trivial little program file written using idle. Let me get out of here. Now, I can say File, Exit Idle, or I can just click the close button in the upper right corner. So I'll just close that way, and I can close the shell that way too. And now I'm back in my ordinary command prompt. So idle is one way of testing Python code and also creating Python programs in files that you can then execute. Now in this class, because it will be used in subsequent classes you take following this class, we would prefer that you write your code in something called Jupyter Notebook. We can access Jupyter Notebook by going to the Anaconda Navigator. So it will take a A little bit of time to launch on my Windows 10 machine. Wait. Okay. Okay, so now we've started up Anaconda Navigator. We get this sign in for AI coding help. I'm just going to clear this. I don't, not interested in Anaconda Cloud. And we are going to launch Jupyter Notebook, okay? So look for the Jupyter Notebook icon and click the Launch button. And Jupyter Notebook is a web-based tool. It will start up showing you the files that exist in some directory. For me, it started showing me the top-level files and folders in my C drive on Windows. Let me go to Downloads, double-click Downloads, and let me create a new file. Okay, I want a new notebook file, so I've clicked File, New, and Notebook. I'm asked to select the kernel that I want, and I think I only have one reasonable choice. The Python 3 kernel that was installed as part of Anaconda. I'm going to say that I always want that preferred kernel to start. And here we are. So what I see here is the main Jupyter screen. The file that I'm currently, or the notebook that I'm currently interacting with is untitled. Let's fix that right away. So I'm going to say File, Save Notebook As, and let me call it Install Video Example. Okay, Install Video Example. Click Save. And there we go. Okay, so now it's the Install Video Example notebook. This thing up here with these square brackets next to it and the blue bar is what's called a cell in the notebook. And in the cell, I can type some Python code. So I can say A gets 123, and then A. All right, well, I've typed some code. This is basically the same as what I typed into my idle shell. And once I have typed in some code, I can go up and say run the selected cell. Okay, it ran, and notice that it produced some output. Okay, so the blue colored square bracket, that's the code cell, and the red color is the output produced by executing the code in that cell. That A variable does exist now, so I could say something like print A squared. The print function allows me to display values as output, and as an alternative to saying run, I can click the greater than symbol, and I don't know if you can read it, but it says run this cell. So that means the current cell, run this cell, and I get the value displayed for A squared. Okay, now that cell contains the third line of code here. and so on and so forth. So there's a lot more to know about Jupyter, but this is the general idea. Now you can also, at the Run menu, you can say run all above the selected cell, or run all cells. And those are important because often, if you do something like, let's say a while loop, we haven't formally talked about this yet. You should know it in theory from prerequisite courses. But let me say while A is less than 130, print A, and then A plus gets a 1. So we're going to add 1 to A. And now we're going to run this current cell. All right? So I've created a cell that has a while loop, and I'm saying while A is less than 130, run this cell, and I get 123 up through 129. If I run this cell again, however, I get nothing that time. And the reason is that this variable A was created way up here, and the variable A still exists, but has been counted up to 130. All right, so it's not going to be effective for me now to just repeatedly run this cell over and over, because the value of A is already 130, and so the while loop does not do anything. So this would be a case where I would want to say run all the cells, and that will reestablish the initial value of A being 1. There we go. So that reran all the cells. A was set to 123. The value of A is displayed. We're using print to display A squared. And now this while loop is executed. And down here in this cell, I could just say A to see what the value of A is now, and it should be 130. There we go. All right, so beware of just repeatedly re-executing individual cells. It's very important periodically to run your entire notebook. All right, well, that's all the noise I'm going to make right now. So let's just say File, Save All, and we can close this Jupyter window by just closing the browser that it's in. Okay, so that's all you need to know for now about installing Anaconda and using Jupyter Notebook.